We're going to be talking about vocabulary on the SAT. Now, most of you are doubtless aware that there is no explicit testing of your level of vocabulary on the test as such. So you might reasonably ask, why do we devote any time at all in our program to the issue of vocabulary? Let me go through a couple of important considerations. In 1959, the typical high school graduate in the United States had a vocabulary, a walking around everyday vocabulary of 25,000 words. As of 2009, a half century later, 2 generations later, the typical walking around everyday vocabulary of a high school graduate in the United States has dropped to 10,000 words. Folks, this is a cultural catastrophe. Without getting into reasoned discourse on the topic of how did this come to be, the horse is out of that barn, as we might say, we have to wrestle with the question of what can an individual student do to perform at a high level on the SAT in those parts of the SAT where vocabulary is critical, namely the writing part and the critical reading part, 2/3 of the test. Assume a level of mastery that would yield 5% equals 700 and above, which has always been true on this test. Now, I'll let that sink in for a while. 700 and above is 5% of the test takers. It's designed that way. It's supposed to be that way. Now, any score by a student below 700 on either the writing or critical reading parts of the test, automatically it will turn out the vocabulary is the primary problem there. You might have other issues such as, for example, time management, but the main problem is going to be vocabulary. This is what I have myself witnessed for all the several decades in which I've been involved in helping young people prepare for the SAT. The primary problem is vocabulary. Now, interestingly, the top schools in their admissions process act as if this cultural catastrophe to which I have just referred had not happened. Act as if a typical walking around high school graduate does in fact possess a working vocabulary of 25,000 words. They can afford to assume that or act as if that were true, even though it is manifestly not true, because the pressure to go to these schools has intensified over the years. The applications are much more numerous. Many more students think they can have a shot at going to these schools. And if they're not getting the vocabulary they need in college, they've got to do it somehow on their own. Now, in our program, we have 2 ways to approach this challenge, the vocabulary challenge. In class, we provide something to every student called the hot list, the hot words, the list of roughly 900 words, which are absolutely vital to success on the SAT. That's on top of however many other words you happen to know. You need to know these words. All right, so we have whole sections of the program devoted to going through that list and helping you master those words. But you, of course, have to be the student who shows the initiative. It's on you. You've got to make this happen. You've got to learn the words. Is that supposed to be fun? No, not really. It's work that you have to do to make up for the deficiencies of your education. This, again, assumes you really think you have a shot at a 700 plus on each of the two English language related portions of the SAT. Now, the second way in which we at the Treville Academy approach vocabulary is online. All right? Now, you will notice, if you spend time on this website at all, in close conjunction with these introductory talks of mine, there is a whole collection of words which I define one at a time. These are easy to access. You might find this very helpful. You might find this to be the most convenient way for you, as in this case perhaps a distance learner, to become master of the language at the level that they're looking for out there. All right, now the website is a work in progress. We don't have all the words there yet, so that will be evolving over time. There are thousands of words in that list as opposed to about 900 on the hot list. In any case, the more books written at an adult level, whether fiction or nonfiction, which you want to add to your internal memory banks. I've read this book and that book and this book and that play by Shakespeare, whatever it might be. All of these that you have done, that's going to help you build your basic vocabulary as well. I also will be recommending in class that students purchase a specific dictionary. Parents, be ready for this. It's not cheap, but it is very much worthwhile. It'll be you're going to regard it as an investment over time. Your student will carry this on through college years and into the rest of his or her life. It will be well used, I assure you. Now, after you've viewed this 5-part introduction to the critical reading and writing sections of the SAT, as well as Dr. Lee's math presentation, you should have a clear picture of the substantial differences in approach and coverage between the Treville Academy and any other SAT prep program or materials that you might have been exposed to. Therefore, we think the next step is obvious. We look forward to initiating a conversation with you in the very near future. Again, thank you so much.